December 15th, 1963. Las Vegas, the Sands Hotel. Presidential Suite. Frank Sinatra stood at the window, looking down at the Strip, a glass of Jack Daniels trembling in his hand. 3 weeks had passed since JFK's assassination. The phone rang. Frank already knew who it was before answering. "Francis." The voice was cold, aristocratic. "We need to discuss your future." It was Nelson Rockefeller. "The president is dead," Frank replied, his voice hollow. "Presidents die, but the show goes on. And you, Francis, are still our headliner." That conversation, recorded by FBI bugs that were supposedly monitoring Sinatra's mob connections, revealed something far more sinister. The Rat Pack wasn't just a group of entertainers, they were the public face of the largest money laundering operation in history. A three-way partnership between the Mafia, the CIA, and the Rockefeller banking empire. The story begins in 1946, when a young Frank Sinatra's career was mysteriously dying. The Bobby Soxers had grown up, and Frank was yesterday's news. Then came the meeting that changed everything. It happened at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Present were Lucky Luciano via telephone from Italy, Meyer Lansky, David Rockefeller, and a young CIA operative named James Jesus Angleton. The topic: creating a new American empire based on entertainment, gambling, and controlled vice. Before we reveal how Sinatra became the voice of this shadow empire, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because what you're about to learn will change how you see Vegas forever. Sinatra's journal, discovered in a wall safe after his 1998 death, and immediately confiscated by federal agents, contained this entry: "They offered me everything: fame, money, power, women. All I had to do was sing for them. Not just on stage, but everywhere. Be their voice, their face, their illusion." Luciano would provide the muscle, Rockefeller the money, the government, the protection, and I would provide the glamour that made it all seem legitimate. By 1952, Sinatra's career had been resurrected. From Here to Eternity won him an Oscar. But that role didn't come from talent alone. David Rockefeller had personally called Columbia Pictures chief Harry Cohn. The exact words, according to Cohn's secretary: "Give Sinatra the part or we call in your loans." With his career restored, Sinatra's real job began, making Las Vegas the center of American nightlife. But Vegas wasn't about entertainment. It was about money. Dirty money that needed cleaning. The Rat Pack, Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, weren't just performers. Each had a specific role in the operation. Sinatra, the leader. The connection between the mob, the CIA, and the Rockefellers. His concerts and casino appearances drew high rollers whose money could be laundered through the casinos. Dean Martin. The drunk act was just that, an act. Martin was stone-cold sober most nights, observing, recording, reporting. His handler was Johnny Rosselli, who reported directly to the Chicago outfit and the CIA. Sammy Davis Jr., the only black man allowed in white Vegas clubs. Sammy was the bridge to the growing African-American entertainment money. But more importantly, his interracial relationship with Mae Britt was orchestrated to distract from the Pac's real activities. While the media focused on scandal, millions moved through the casinos. Peter Lawford married to Patricia Kennedy. He was the link to the White House. Through Lawford, the Rat Pack had direct access to JFK and Bobby Kennedy. He was also the one who introduced Marilyn Monroe to both Kennedy brothers, on orders from above. Joey Bishop, the comic relief, who was actually the Pac's accountant. His photographic memory could track every dollar that moved through their shows. The Sands Hotel, where the Rat Pack performed, was the center of the operation. Officially owned by various mob figures, the real ownership traced back through shell companies to Rockefeller banks. Every night, while Frank sang and Dean joked, millions in drug money, arms deals, and CIA black budget funds were cleaned through the casino. FBI agent William Romer, who spent years investigating the Chicago outfit, wrote in his classified report, The Rat Pack shows were the greatest distraction ever created. While everyone watched Sinatra sing, nobody noticed the armored trucks in the back, the diplomatic pouches that never went through customs, the private planes that landed at midnight carrying more than just high rollers. But the relationship was toxic. Each member of the Rat Pack was trapped in their own way. Sinatra was caught between his loyalty to the Kennedys and his obligations to his handlers. When JFK started cracking down on organized crime, Frank was ordered to stop it. He couldn't. The Kennedys cut him off, but his other masters didn't forgive failure. Dean Martin's son, Dean Paul Martin, died in a suspicious plane crash in 1987. Just weeks after Dean announced he was writing a tell-all book, Dean never wrote another word, never performed again. He died on Christmas Day 1995, taking his secrets to the grave. Sammy Davis Jr. was subjected to constant racial humiliation, forced to perform in casinos where he couldn't eat or sleep. But worse was the control. His marriage to Mae Britt was approved and managed by the Syndicate. When they decided it had served its purpose, the marriage was destroyed through orchestrated scandals. The most tragic was Peter Lawford. After JFK's assassination, he knew too much. His Rat Pack membership was revoked. Sinatra wouldn't take his calls. He spiraled into addiction and died in 1984, reportedly trying to sell his story to anyone who would listen. Nobody would. The real power of the Rat Pack operation was revealed in the casino papers, documents discovered during the renovation of the Sands Hotel in 1996. Hidden in a vault behind the main stage, they showed $800 million had moved through the Sands between 1960 and 1966. Money came from heroin sales in Harlem, arms deals with Cuban exiles, CIA operations in Southeast Asia. Money went to Swiss banks controlled by Rockefeller interests, political campaigns, and Hollywood productions. One document, signed by Sinatra himself, was particularly damning. It was a contract dated February 7, 1962. I, Francis Albert Sinatra, acknowledge my role as cultural ambassador for the Syndicate described herein. I understand that my life, career, and legacy are property of said Syndicate. Any attempt to violate this agreement will result in immediate sanction. Sanction meant death. Sinatra tried to break free once. In 1963, he was going to testify to Bobby Kennedy about the whole operation. He had prepared documents, recordings, evidence that would blow everything open. The meeting was scheduled for November 23, 1963. JFK was killed on November 22, 1963. The message was clear. Sinatra never attempted to break free again. Instead, he became even more embedded. His marriage to Mia Farrow was arranged to access the younger Hollywood generation. His relationship with the Nixon administration was orchestrated to maintain federal protection. Cal Neva Lodge, Sinatra's casino on the California-Nevada border, was the darkest part of the operation. Built directly on the state line, it allowed for activities that were illegal on one side to be conducted on the other. Marilyn Monroe spent her last weekend there, July 28, 29, 1962. Witnesses reported she was drugged, incoherent, being photographed in compromising positions. Those photos were allegedly used to blackmail the Kennedys. 1 week later, she was dead. The basement of Cal Neva, according to former employee Jimmy Hayes, contained recording equipment in every room. A medical facility run by Dr. Norman Leaf, connected to MK Ultra. A vault containing blackmail material on hundreds of politicians and celebrities. When Sinatra lost his gaming license in 1963, it wasn't punishment, it was cover. The operation was getting too visible. Cal Neva was sold, the evidence disappeared, and the operation moved to new venues. Sinatra's final years were haunted. His last wife, Barbara Marx, reported that he would wake up screaming names. Marilyn, Jack, Bobby, I'm sorry. I didn't know they would kill you. In 1995, 3 years before his death, Sinatra gave a final concert at the Desert Inn in Vegas. In the audience was an elderly David Rockefeller. After the show, they met privately. The conversation was overheard by a stagehand. Rockefeller. You've been our greatest performer, Francis. Sinatra. I've been your puppet. Rockefeller. The best puppet is one that thinks it's dancing on its own. Sinatra. How many died for our dance? Rockefeller. Fewer than would have died without it. Sinatra's response was reportedly, "That's what you tell yourself. But we both know we're going to hell." Rockefeller laughed. "Hell doesn't exist, Francis. We bought it and turned it into Las Vegas." When Sinatra died on May 14, 1998, his funeral was attended by a strange mix of mourners: mob lawyers, CIA operatives, Rockefeller representatives, and Hollywood stars. They weren't mourning a singer, they were burying evidence. Sinatra's personal recordings, rumored to contain confessions about the JFK assassination, Marilyn's murder, and the Rat Pack operation, were never found. His widow Barbara claimed they never existed. But she received a $50 million payment from an insurance policy nobody knew Frank had, from a company that traced back to Rockefeller Holdings. The Rat Pack's legacy lives on, but not as Frank would have wanted. They're remembered for their songs, their swagger, their style. Nobody remembers the armored trucks, the blackmail vaults, the trail of bodies. Vegas still runs on the system they created. The mob faces changed, the Rockefeller name hidden deeper, the CIA's involvement more sophisticated. But the fundamental operation remains: entertainment as a front for moving money, controlling culture, and eliminating threats. Dean Martin's daughter, Dina, once said the Rat Pack died when JFK was shot. After that, they were just ghosts performing for other ghosts. She was more right than she knew. They were all ghosts. Mind dead men walking, singing for their supper, in a hell disguised as paradise, their voices echoing through eternity. Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. The stars they played among were all dead, and they had helped kill them.